theme song for the Gear Podcast. We're back again, Uncle Leon. This is 4 weeks in a row, mate. How's that make you feel?
It makes me feel like magic, Troy. How have you been? You had a good week?
Not too bad. I've still got this lingering cough, but like outside of that, mate, I'm not feeling too bad at all, actually. Another win for Fremantle. That's good. That's 6 in a row. We got the Swannies on Sunday, next Sunday. So if we can get over that, I'd be very, very happy. But, obviously, pour a little out for Dom Sheed, Premiership hero 2018. Very sad. But body just let him down, mate.
Gov, Sheed, who else has gone from that Premiership team? Having said that, though, mate, the Eagles actually played pretty good against Collingwood. Couple of very nice passages of play, right? Where you can see
the game live?
I didn't know, but I just watched the highlights. And, there was some... they pushed them, which is good. Good signs. It's like starting to click.
It was pretty good, man. I was watching it as I was doing my gig. And because, what else are you going to do but watch the TV? There was this tiny sliver of space for me to watch the screen as I was playing a couple of cover songs. So, yeah, up until three-quarter time, it was, it was all on. And then they just fell away. Couldn't handle the pressure of the Collingwood pressure, unfortunately. So, see you later, West Coast. But, mate, other than that, bloody everything's all right. What about you? What's the goss, mate? What have you been doing?
Oh, not too much. The last podcast episode had a bunch of great comments, and we talked about strange and mysterious and wonderful guitar shapes, and there were a couple that some people mentioned. There was the St. Vincent Ernie Ball Music Man and Omar Rodriguez Lopez, the Mariposa, that is sort of, and the Albert Lee Music Man that are all pointy. And
I did think about that after we finished. The Music Man's got some weird ones. Omar, what's his name? Omar Rodriguez Lopez, is that right?
Yes, from the Mars Volta.
That's that. What is it called? The Jet King, Ibanez Jet King.
Oh, the Ibanez Jet King, yeah.
Is that what it is?
Yeah, that was
I thought that's what it was.
going.
Is that what it was?
Was
or
it?
Something different? I thought it was. Hang on. Well, no, you can look it up.
We'll look
you're
that
more
up.
experienced on this.
But the other one, which was absolutely crazy, was there was a Guild guitar that was mentioned to me. And shout out to Alessio, my buddy, who bought these up. And I'm just going to go through and because we were talking about that episode on there. He had a couple of really good ones on there. There was the Vernon Reid Reverend, the Ernie Ball Music Man Armada, the BC Rich Ironbird was on there, the Robin Wedge. And the Robin Wedge, that was the one that was just like, it looks like if you took a flying V, but you rotated the body 90 degrees, that was on there.
Oh, yeah, okay. Yep.
Yeah. Absolutely gross and disgusting. So, there was a couple of other ones on there which were just crazy. But the one that we forgot, and I just want to address this before we dive into today's episode, the reverse flying V.
Oh, yeah.
That's got to be up there with just absolutely Homer Simpson designs a car. So, I'm glad so many people enjoyed that metric as well. But rather than talk about, we are going to talk about some guitars and some guitar gear. This is the Gear Podcast, after all. You had the great suggestion that we should talk about absolute bargain secondhand deals that we've come across. And I feel like everybody listening probably has at least a couple of examples of pieces of gear that they've got where it's too good to be true sometimes, and you just find an amazing piece of equipment, whether it's something that you've ended up using for a long time and you didn't pay much for, or whether it's something that you didn't really want it, but you couldn't pass it up at the price point. So, mate, it was your idea. So let's start off. Tell me about something that you own that you got for an amazing price.
Well, I think the first one I want to talk about, I'll talk about generally, like you can see some amps and some rack stuff there. I'm not a rich man, Leon. I think you know that about me. I'm not flush with cash, but I do have a problem called Facebook Marketplace and and Gumtree as well, and all these things. And I've been collecting stuff for years. It's been 20 years of scouring, and I'll talk about one of the early purchases actually as we go on, because that was a deal as well. But the amp wall, and it's in fact been covered by the mic. So excuse me while I move this over. But you can see
Hey.
a pink dual rectifier.
Oh,
And this is worth a bit of a story because we're both involved. I may have mentioned this from time to time on the show. I've told a lot of people about this as they've come to my studio because I mean the thing is I like all this equipment. I don't need it for everything I do, but the reason to have it is like people come in and we can try different sounds and see what works, and it also looks really good. Like it's like, oh wow, here's a dual rectifier and a Splawn Nitro and all these sort of things. So that's all really cool. The the dual rectifier though was kind of an interesting purchase because again, you were there for this whole story, but I paid 500 Australian dollars for that amp. So what does that work out to be? That's about like 300 American dollars, which
yeah, ish.
doesn't sound, maybe that doesn't sound like a huge score, but they retailed for like $5,000 Australian. They're really quite expensive amps,
Mm-hmm.
as anything American built is. And I was not like a huge recto guy growing up, and it wasn't until you and I started messing with like rectos like about 10 years ago. And you've spoken about that a lot on your channel, like how we borrowed our friend Nigel's Roadster, like Mesa Boogie
Mm-hmm.
Roadster, used that for some stuff and kind of got into that sound. And that's a really awesome amp as well. But yeah, this amp basically came up and I was like, look, you can't not spend $500 on an amp that costs otherwise
Yeah.
$5,000.
Well,
More to
Troy,
the
I just
point,
looked it up. The '90s reissue Recto retails for 7,500 Australian dollars. So
well, there you go. It's like, I mean,
even
it's
better
not,
deal.
yeah, it's not going to sound exactly the same, but it's like you're close enough for like whatever that is, like less than 10% of the price. And more importantly, it's fucking pink, mate. It's a pink dual rectifier. And I love colorful things. And particularly when you've got a heavy metal amp that's such a traditionally not manly color. I really enjoy that. So the thing is with this amp, to tell the story. So basically, maybe I won't. Well, this if this person ever happens to listen, please like get in contact again because we have no idea where you
Yes.
are anymore.
Yep.
But the story goes, there was a guy selling some audio equipment on one of the local groups here in Perth, some EQs, and I went to his house to buy them because I needed some at the time. And he said like, "Oh, look, I'm getting rid of all this studio gear. If you want anything else, let me know. I might have something for you." So I said, "Okay, no worries." A couple of weeks go by. I said, "Look," and this is about 2018. I said to him, "Oh, look, I'm looking for some rack cases if you've got anything." And he said, "Oh, I've got these 16 unit shock mount cases. You're welcome to grab one. How much do you want?" I said, "How much do you want?" And they're quite cheap. So I said, "Great, I'll come. I'll grab two of them." But I'm probably not going to be able to get them in my car. Is it okay if I bring my friend Leon? He's going to get one of these rack cases for me, and then we'll drive back to the studio. And the guy said, "Yeah, no worries." So he said, "Meet me in my warehouse." So, great, no worries. Warehouse not too
And
far from where you live.
this is where I come into the story, right? Meet you at this warehouse, not far from my house. Mate, what are we doing here?
Yep.
And I've got my car, which at the time was a Ford station wagon. Rest in peace to that wonderful, wonderful car.
It's still ripping
So
around the
rock up.
neighborhood, isn't it?
It is, yeah, yeah. The
Yeah.
people who bought it, I think, use it to take their dogs to the beach. But nevertheless, we're both there in this industrial unit, waiting for this guy to answer the door, and I'll handle it back over to you.
Yeah, like I remember like just getting there and he was real standoffish too. And again, I met this guy once and I said to him like, "Oh, um, come and grab the stuff and is 5 o'clock okay?" And he goes, "Yep, look, five's okay, but I've only got 10 minutes and then you're gonna have to go." I'm like, "Okay, no worries." Got there at 5 o'clock. You got there at 5 o'clock. Rack cases are at the front of this warehouse. Let's get out of here. And I said to him like, "Oh, look, you've got all this studio stuff. Like, if you've got a second, I wouldn't mind just seeing what else you have because maybe there's some other stuff we might be keen to buy." So remember, he was so reluctant. He goes, yeah, okay, come in." So we go into this warehouse and mate, the door opens. It's fucking Candyland in there. Like you wouldn't
Oh,
believe
mate.
the things that this man had. So let's just to start, Leo. I mean, let me see what you remember. I remember there was about 7 racks worth of pro audio equipment, compressors and EQs and all that sort of stuff. There was snare drums in there. There was a 60 channel audio mixing console in there. There were speakers. Not only that, there were arcade machines. Remember? There was a car in there. It was
It
just
was like a decent sized industrial unit, and it was like a studio, a music store, an arcade, and a vintage mechanics place all in one, right?
yep.
So you walk in, and we were like, oh, I see why you were maybe a little bit reluctant to show us this, because there's like, you know, in terms of like a man cave, it was the ultimate. Like,
Yep.
and then, you know, obviously we're in there to we've got the racks, and he starts pulling stuff out, right? It's like, oh, well, yeah, and without getting too far into the story, right? It was like basically he had to move overseas, so he had to sell all his equipment, and he was someone who'd never sold any equipment, and you could just see that it was crushing this poor man's soul, and he wasn't much older than us, and he just accumulated this incredible collection, and yeah, it was one of those things where it's like, well, hey, look, we can see that this is killing you, so maybe we can do some deals here and get some stuff. And
he was just super cool, man.
Yeah, and great guy to hang out with.
Like you said, he just started bringing stuff out, and it's like, I remember saying, we were there for about 20 minutes, and I said to him, "Oh, sorry, man, I know you got to go. Like, we don't want to take up too much of your time." He's like, "Oh, no, that's cool, man. I just didn't know who you guys were. I didn't want like random people hanging out, but no, you guys are cool. So like, stick around." So we would have been there for like an hour and a half, but he just starts. Yeah. Remember, he was pulling out pedals, and you were just like, "What the fuck? Like, how have you got this? How have you got that?" And anyway, he had this enormous box, which was like a shipping box not a shipping box. It was like a road case, massive road case that you'd put like big LED screens in it or something like that. It was like massive, but he'd repurposed it just to house all of his heads. And he had like a bunch of Cherrytone heads in there, and like, it was just crazy. So, we see the
DSL Pink Recto, the Cherrytones. Yep. There was one of those what's the like Matamp copies? It was like green or something. Yeah, there was hovercraft amps. That's right. So yeah, just like insane stuff. And like the more you looked, the more you saw, right? Yep. It was just, and then he's pulling apart, I've got a couple of racks. I think he had like 4 Digitech 2120s and literally entire like drawers full of like, oh, here's the delay drawer, and there's like a timeline and all the Chase Bliss stuff and all the, like, it was just actually incredible. It was like, oh, well, if I get this, and this, how much do you want for it? So yeah, he really, really hooked us up. And you've got a bunch of studio gear, right?
Yeah. Well, I mean, firstly, like I said, we went there to get the racks, and then he's like, I remember we saw the amps. I'm like, how much do you want for? Remember, it was how much do you want for the Pink Recto, the Cherrytone DC,
the Son of Yeti,
and the Son of Yeti, and the 3 amps.
Yep.
And I reckon we got those 3 amps combined for like $1,200 or something.
Yeah.
Maybe it was a bit more than that. Maybe it was 15. But I remember you kept the Son of Yeti, I kept the other 2 amps. And I wasn't really like, I think we bought our house like months before that. And I wasn't really in a like, how about I just go spend a shitload of money on gear? But, that was an incredible deal, man. Like, couldn't pass it up. And as you say, like, I ended up buying a lot of studio gear off him afterwards as well. Like, I picked up my studio monitors, which are some Focal Twin 6BEs for like very, very cheap. I got some compressors. I think I got another road case off him. We actually bought the mixing console for the studio downstairs as well. So, and again, it's a 60-channel Audient console with full automation. I don't think he paid this for it, but I remember he told me at the time that, he'd bought this desk secondhand, and he said it was bought for something like 140 grand, and then he paid like 10 for it, and then he sold it to us for like, and by us, I mean this owner downstairs, for like 6 grand. It was just insane. So, but he was cool, man. And do you remember there was like a date where he was kind of like, look, I'm cleaning out my mezzanine, and I've just got a bunch of stuff. I don't want money. Like, I just got to get rid of it if you want it. So we went round, and I remember picking up a bunch of like old Behringer units, and a green screen that he had, and a smoke
cables
machine.
And stands, and like just stuff that's handy that you kind of never like, where you're like, oh yeah, I guess I can probably live without that. But when you've got it, you're like, oh great, I've got that thing, I'll go get it. So and then what an absolute boxes. Ledge.
2 special boxes.
The special boxes, mate.
We won't talk about the 2 special boxes.
But, filled with vintage adult entertainment, put it that way.
Which don't know what to do with them, but
Troy, at the time, I think you were in the position where you could keep them at the studio. And, now that you've got like young kids who are probably running around, like, I'm happy to keep them in my shed if you want to, I
might take you up on that. They haven't been, I'm not saying this because this is public, but like, I don't know what to do with them. They're
Yeah.
VHS tapes, and there's
Yeah.
two enormous boxes of them, and it's just funny to keep them. Like I said, I have no use for them, but I'm not going to give them away to someone because that doesn't feel very legal.
No.
So
No, but
anyway, I'm not
look,
going to put him in the
that
bin
was
either.
like
So.
one of those situations where I think you just meet the right person at the right time. And, you know, it definitely feels like with that gear we got off them that it's like, you know, the custodians. I've still got the rack cases and the rack, like a touring rack drawer, right? So it's the sort of thing, you know, it looks like a rack case, but you open up, it's got a bunch of drawers. So to be the sort of thing you take if you're a guitar tech and you've got all your tools organized. Or I always remember seeing the like Iron Maiden Live After Death liner notes where they had a road case, but it had like, here's where all the soap is, here's where the shaving implements are for the like the band and the road crew. So like when you had to go and get ready, you just go in there and they had a specific road case for like toiletries, which I was like, man, that is so clever. You know, you just got that backstage and, you know, you're like, I don't know, you're Bruce Dickinson, you need to go on stage and you forgot to brush your teeth. So you're like, oh, 1 second. I know where that is. So yeah, that's, I need to actually get that stuff over here because it's too big to fit in my Mazda 3. So yeah, pretty amazing. All that stuff there was, yeah, an absolute steal. I think the equivalent for me would be, I saw a couple of, so this would be, I was definitely doing the YouTube thing. It was maybe 2018, 2019. And I saw, I'm sure probably you sent me the message and it was like, oh, look, there's an 88 MP1 for sale. Sort of out, I forget where it was, maybe the eastern suburbs of Perth. And I was like, oh man, I should go and get that. And then I can do the 3-tube mod to it because I've always wanted to do that. Didn't really want to do it to the original one that I've got. And so yeah, drive out there, get to this guy's house and he's like, oh, Leon, I watch you on YouTube, mate. Like, hey, and you know, we just start talking about gear. He had like an 800 and a 5150 in there and a JMP one, and it's basically saying like, yeah, he didn't really play the ADAs anymore. So, and I was like, oh, you've got 2 of them. What are you going to do? You want to keep one? Now, in my brain, in a situation like that, I always take extra cash because you'd sort of never know. You know, you got to buy one thing, and you know, people often have other stuff they might want to flip. And I was like, oh, that's cool. Like, you've got 2 ADAs. Yeah, I'll take one of them. He goes, oh, would you be interested in taking both of them? And, you know, I think this was a thing where it was like maybe one was listed for $400 or something. Back when you could still get ADAs, before I ruined the market, Troy, by doing videos about them.
This is the deal that ruined the whole thing. Go on.
There's a deal that ruined the whole thing, right? Because, then I go, well, yeah, like, what do you want? It's like, oh, I don't know, I think I paid $500 for the 2 of them, right? And cash in hand, boom, very, very happy with the transaction. They were basically identical. And then, friend of the channel, Johnny C from Anarchy Audio, helped me do I bought the 3-tube mod kit. He installed it, did a bunch of videos with it. And that's why you can see 3 ADA MP1s there. One is my dad's original one. The other 2 I got from, somewhere out east here in Perth. What an absolute deal. And then that was right around the time that, you know, the vintage rack gear craze, I think, really kicked in and you could no longer get that stuff for those prices. Hey, you're looking at the problem, mate. You got your ADAs for, you got your ADAs for a pretty good steal, right?
Yeah. So the very first thing I ever bought on eBay, which was 19 years ago now, or probably almost, I reckon it was, well, it's July now, but I think it must have been June in 2006. I remember that. But because, you know, big Paul Gilbert fan. But yeah, the first thing I ever found was that I ever wanted to buy was an 80 MP1, and I was watching it on this auction. I'd never bought anything on eBay before, but it was local, and I didn't have a driver's license at the time as well. So I was like, oh shit, no, if it's good, I can't really go get it. But it was local. It was a whole bundle of stuff. So there was an 80 MP1. There was a Marshall 4x12, which turned out to be a like vintage 30 loaded straight cab.
That's the one.
That's the one. And there was a box of other miscellaneous things in there. Like there was a corded mic, for example, and some cables and just like random stuff. So
the good old days of eBay.
Yeah, the listing was up for like $200 to start. And I'm like, well, I mean, that's crazy. But that was still, I mean, I was 18, so that was a lot of money. But I really wanted it. So I thought, I'll see how I go. And I was reading posts. How do you win auctions on eBay? because it
Yep.
was an auction. It wasn't a buy it now. Like I
Yep.
was waiting for the listing to run out. So I remember waking up that morning, it was Tuesday, and I was really stressed out because this auction was coming up and I didn't want to miss it and miss out. But yeah, anyway, got to the final like minute and bid started flying. And long story short, I think I won the auction for like $609 for an 80 MP1, this Marshall, V30 cabinet, all this sort of stuff, which was amazing, and that kind of kicked off the whole rack thing for me. And it was
Yep.
not long after that, it was trying to buy FX units and then buy power amps. And I mean, I still have, you can see it, that's the ADA in my rack down there.
How cool.
Funnily enough, the other funny thing though is that's not the only like ADA score that I had, and in fact, the other ADA score is significantly bigger and better. And yeah, once again, this is well before rack craze kind of kicked in, because I'd say like around 2006, 7, 8, like that sort of time period, you probably could go on eBay and you could probably find something for like $400, maybe.
Yeah. And we're talking Australian dollars again here. So,
Australian dollars, yeah.
a lot
And
less USD.
and I did buy one. I remember it was really beat up. It was and this was in probably 2008. I had a second one, and I only got a second one because our favorite video, Paul Gilbert, Intense Rock, he's got 2 ADA MP1s in that rack.
Yeah.
So I'm like, well, I got to be like Paul Gilbert. So the other one never really worked though, because it was pretty rusty and like there's a lot of rash and all that stuff on it. And I ended up flipping that for probably about what I paid for it. But 2013, 2014, again, always going on Gumtree, I was going on Facebook on these sort of things. Someone had listed this rack of guitar gear and it was $129. And I thought, I mean, that's pretty cheap. And I zoomed into the picture. 1 times ADA MP1 was a 6 rack unit case.
Ugh.
ADA MP1, ADA Microtube 100, Marshall JMP1, Yamaha, like, I can't remember what it's called, but the Yamaha, it looks like an SPX 90, but it's a guitar processor. And then there was a Behringer patch bay in there as well for some reason, and the rack case. And it was 129 Australian dollars. So, and it was like a 5-minute drive as well. The guy was just in North Perth. So I messaged him. I remember just being like, oh, are you sure? He's like, yeah, I mean, I just don't, it's been sitting in my shed, just take it. I'm like, great, I will do that. So yeah, man, that was a massive score.
Incredible. I mean, that's literally thousands of dollars now. Like ADA MP1s you don't see for less than 1,000 Australian dollars. The JMP ones, same thing.
Like, yeah, JMP one's like probably, I've seen them go for like $1,500 now. Like, it's crazy. I've never seen another microtube. That was the one and only. Yeah. And look, I'll be honest, all the stuff wasn't in perfect condition. But my
functional.
ADA, yeah, like I think the JMP one might have had a couple issues. I ended up moving that one on. The microtube's a bit noisy, and so I think I've tried it a few times, but I've ended up it was a bit like crackling in the pots and stuff. And it's one of those things, like some of that gear is so old it really needs a birthday, and I didn't want to spend money on it. But funnily enough, the ADA MP1 that I got in that sale, it sounds very, very good. My Hammer Space Tonex pack is using that specific unit, because my original one, I kind of messed that up quite a bit, which you can go buy my Tonex packs at hammerspacerecording.com, everybody.
There you go.
I think that's the website.
Yeah, that's absolutely, again, an absolute score. In terms of just, I feel like while we're talking about eBay, have you ever bid on anything where you're just like, I'm just going to put a bid on this and there's no way that it will sell for that price, and then no one else bids on it? So I got a Hamer Special, a USA one, a 1993 Hamer Special. It had a very nicely done headstock repair on it, right? And this, again, was before Hamers were stupid prices used, so probably early 2010s. I think it was up for like, $400. And I was like, I'll just put, I'll bid $450, just for the fun of it, just for that little dopamine rush. And there's no way I will get it. I forgot about it for like a week, and then I was like, congratulations, you've won Hamer Special 1993, a headstock repair for $400. And I was like, well, I kind of forgot about that and wasn't really expecting to win it. And it also came with a really nice Gibson soft bag as well. Like, that probably would have cost $150, $200 at the time.
Yeah.
And it's an awesome sounding guitar. I mean, we did a bunch of tracking with that thing on various Ragdoll releases, right? It's just
That's the red one with
Duncan
P90s,
P90s.
right? Yeah.
Yeah, actually, that was sort of my main live guitar for a little period in time. Like probably 2011, 2012, I was playing it a lot. So
I loved that
one
guitar,
comes
man.
to mind. It's still great, man. I need to get it out and use it.
Yeah, I reckon there was a period where, like, I remember we had a chat about it where it was like, man, what's Leon's guitar? What's Leon's amp? It was sort of, it was, sounds silly, but when you've got access to so much equipment, and that's, it's a problem that both of us have had because we are avidly buying things, and, you had a lot of your old band stuff and all that too. It's like, you don't settle on something because you can just try everything. But I remember thinking, like, man, a P90s, like that is, a like small body sort of guitar that just seemed to suit you and the way you played. It was, we did heaps of gigs with that.
So, it's interesting, right? Because then I got the PRS Mirror not long after that, which is a similar vibe, and then the PRS Single Cut, which has basically the same pickups as the Mirror. So it's like, there's definitely an important thing on the evolution. Absolute. While we're talking about the '80s vibes, right? This was, man, I'd only just started playing guitar. And my dad comes to me and goes, hey, someone's just bought me this. I mean, this isn't the guitar, right? But anyone who's played an Ibanez RG550 knows. He goes, they bought this guitar in and they said the neck's cracked. And I was like, I'm fairly certain that's just like a cosmetic paint thing, around the joint you get a split in there. The neck pocket was not cracked. So it's like, oh, yeah, cool. It'll be like a paint repair. I was like, tell him not to worry about it kind of thing. So I still have no idea who this person was who bought the guitar around. And he's like, oh, yeah, it should be fine. It's not affecting it structurally. And apparently this person's like, yeah, but I just don't like the way it looks. Like, it's very off-putting. And my dad being my dad's like, oh, well, you want to sell it then? And, they have this kind of like, oh, yeah, maybe I'd think about it. What would you give me for it? I think he was like $150. And they were like, yeah, go on. So he comes in like 10 minutes later. He's like, here you go, man. And I was just like, what do you mean? He's like, I just bought it. I was like, oh, you're like thinking he spent, market value on it. He's like, no. I paid $150 for it. Go for it. And I was just like, oh, that's an unbelievable deal. How on earth have you done that? And he has this like amazing track record of, he was like, for the longest time, he could just talk his way into a deal on anything. It was pretty amazing. But that one comes to mind where it's just like that. And also, he kind of ensnared you with that mandolin, right? You want to tell that story?
Yeah, it was very funny. So Leon's dad, Mr. Todd, he comes up to me 10 years ago. I'm at the house. Were we recording maybe Back to Zero?
I think we were recording, yeah.
He comes up to me and he says, Mr. Todd, because my granddad, Bill Todd. So Leon's dad
Bill
also
Todd.
Bill Todd. So very funny. He always calls me Mr. Todd. He says, Mr. Todd, you like a bit of country music? I said, oh, yeah, that's all right. It's not my sort of thing, but sometimes it's my thing. But he goes, oh, yeah, I've just been given this mandolin, and I won't do his voice. I've just been given this mandolin. Someone wanted me to fix it up for him.
If anyone needs a visual image, imagine Iggy Pop
and
telling
Steve
you
Vai.
this.
Yeah,
and Steve Vai, yep.
Yeah, somehow mashed together. He goes, you want to buy it? And I said, oh, well, Bill, how much do you want for it? Maybe I don't have a mandolin. And he goes, Mr. Todd, how about this? Every time you see me, you just put $10 cash in my pocket. Okay? And he said he wanted $160 for it. He said every time, and I said, look, I don't want to spend $160 right now. I said, let's put $10 in my pocket. And just by coincidence, literally every time I went up to your house, which I used to go up there quite a lot, I'd always have cash on me, and I'd always say, Mr. Todd, I got another $10 for you. So I ended up getting this mandolin. I got it that day. And he'd fixed it somehow. It was in pretty poor condition, but I've got it in the other room. I still got it, but it's one of these cheap brands, like knockoff brands, like what you'd find at Cash Converter sort of thing. It's fucking awful. Like, it's not playable. I don't know what he did to it. I don't know what it was done to it originally, but it's like not a playable instrument. And now I've got this fucking mandolin that I can't do anything with it. But your old man just bloody talked me into it, got himself $160, you know?
Uh,
Your old man, like, not to
Amazing.
go off on too much of a tangent, and I don't like want to bring up any childhood trauma, but do you remember the chess thing? I said to
Oh,
him,
mate,
Liam was
don't talk to him about chess.
we were recording one night. I was recording Ryan, the singer from Leon's band, at Leon's house when Leon wasn't there, and Leon was doing this thing. We're about to leave. It's like 10 o'clock at night, and Leon's dad comes in and says, "Oh, show me what you're doing," sort of thing. And I said, "Oh, look, we're done for the night, Bill. We're going to see you later." And I said to him, "Oh, Liam was, it was true. Liam was saying that you play a bit of chess. I like chess. We should have a game sometime." And your dad, he went white in the face, and he stared at me and he said, "I don't play chess for fun. I play chess to hurt people. I want to beat you, and I want you to lose. I want you to put something on the
It's like
line that
it's
means
like
something."
Rambo First Blood, basically.
Yeah, he goes, "I've got a trophy cabinet of things that I've won off people in the past." And I was like, "Mate, I just wanted to have a casual game with you." And then we were there for an hour, mate, like an hour, just copping a rant. I was looking at Ryan. He was tired. He wanted to go home. I was tired. I wanted to go home. You were not supposed to be home till 11 o'clock. And then apparently you were right around the corner as we left. So, and it was a whole thing. But your dad,
I was
he's
like,
just,
what are you guys still doing there? You're just like, yeah, talking about chess.
yep. Copped it a couple of times, but yeah, that was quite funny. But I saw your dad also I've seen him buy guitars. Like that's his thing. I think to take a sideways step on this, like,
Mate, you know what he's got? He's got that dog in him when it comes to that kind of thing. Like the man knows how to barter and has a life of practice with it. It's one of those things where, like, the small number of like tricks of the trade I've learnt from him, which is basically like, if you want something, hold cash out in front of people, and it has a psychological effect.
Yep.
But I do it and it's like, it's not the same. Like the way he kind of like dances with it and like, mate, I've got a full pocket here. How about you sell me that Strat for $1,000 less than it's worth? Oh, okay.
Yeah, because he's got no shame, and you do. That's different.
But I have no shame, but I'm also inept. So yeah, he's got the animal instinct.
Yeah, I think I just want to take another slight sidestep, just talking about this sort of stuff, because like for me, this stuff, like I'm not a flipper of things really. There's like occasionally I'll go sell stuff, obviously, because I tend to go through a phase where I collect lots and lots of stuff, and then I'm like, oh, maybe I'm a
trim
little too much and trim it down a tiny bit. But usually the things that I get deals on are not the things that go on the flip pile, and it's like all the ADA stuff. Like I've kept. I think I sold that JMP1, which was not working, and I don't think I mean the person that bought it, if they watch this, they can tell me if I ripped them off or not. But I don't think I did. But like stuff like guitars and all that, I've got like a bit of this is just me personally, but if I buy something cheap or if someone gives me something for free, then usually I'll pass it on if it does go for like a similar value, because that just seems like unethical. And yeah, it's mostly stuff like if I buy it cheap, then I'll keep it cheap most of the time.
It's like paying it forward, right? I mean, especially, I teach a lot of people guitar, so you'll have students come in and be like, oh, hey, like, I need this kind of thing, or I want this type of thing. And, if I've got it and I'm not using it often, I'll just be like, well, do you want to just borrow it for an indeterminate period of time? And then if it works for you, let me know what it's worth to you to own it. And then that's kind of that seems like a fair deal to me. But yeah, finding something, there's a special place in hell reserved for people who like troll marketplace to find stuff, and you see it where it's like, there was a particular piece of gear which I had, I'd messaged the seller about, where I was like, oh, it was one of these things where it was a decent price for what it was. It was a piece of rack gear, and, I don't know, $800 or something. I was like, I'm on the fence about it, maybe. Oh, hey, mate, sorry, it's sold. And then on Marketplace, you see a listing immediately for like $1,500 for the exact same piece of thing, where you're just like, come on, man, like, this is, I've talked about my contribution to ruining the used price of, say, like rack gear, but that's just because I like it and I think it's good and I think other people would enjoy it, and I have the means to like share this information. So people are like hijacking off the back of that to create hype. I should probably take more responsibility for that. But yeah, it's exactly. exactly. But and especially like, when you've got mates who are chasing stuff and you're like, you know what, hey, I've got the thing you want. Don't go out and spend a stupid amount of money on it. Let's
Yeah.
just give me $10 every time you see me, man.
Also, like, you touched on it before, like we've got the toy library, which we've mentioned before, but that's like whatever I buy is Leon's, really.
Yeah.
It's just like, oh, you want that guitar, mate? Yeah, go on, take it. I'll just give
No,
it
go
back when
on.
you feel like it. And the same deal, like if Leon's got an amp that I want or a pedal or something, it's just like, yeah, just, I mean, if he wants it back and he wants to do something with it, fine. It's like, don't give a shit. But it's the communal stuff that we have. And there's like half a dozen people that also contribute to the toy library. Some of them don't know they do.
Yeah.
I mean, that's not true. They do, but it's like we, like some, or that they're benefiting from it. Cause if I've got something and you want to lend it to someone, I don't really give a shit about that. It's like, we all take care of it. So
if someone's got a session and they're like, hey, I need an old Marshall, it's like, man, just chat to Troy. Like, don't go and loan one. Just borrow it. And, it's,
well, like I had a friend,
good.
I had a friend the other day, he's going to drop it back actually soon, but he said, oh, look, I need an amp for a gig. Like, have you got, like, there's no backline. Have you got something I can take? I'm like, well, I'm not going to give you one of these things. There's an AC-15 downstairs. Just take that, man. And oh, how much do you want for it? It's like, don't be silly. Just take it. It's like, it's fine.
Be a responsible borrower. I think that's an important thing to have on there. There's a couple for me that immediately come to mind, and shout out to the one and only Ben Wilson. We all know he's listening. This one popped up on Marketplace, I believe. It was a Marshall Vintage Modern, and it was for $300. The only catch was it was about 3 hours from where we live, and only about, I don't know, 30, 45 minutes from where Ben lives. So, I spoke to the person selling it. I was like, hey, can I, what's the deal? Where are you? Okay, cool. No worries. I was like, look, can I get a mate to come around and grab it? I called Ben immediately. I was like, hey man, like, what are you doing? He was like, oh, I'm just like, I think he was doing some care work at the time. So he was out with a client, and I was like, look, there's this amp for sale. It's this much money. Can I send you the money and then just like go and give this guy the cash? He's like, yeah, no worries. An hour later, I get a photo of the amp in the back of his car. And he was like, yeah, next time you're up in Perth, just bring it up. There's no rush. So came up a few weeks later. I'd already sent him the money, got the amp, and it was like immaculate. And it sounded so good. And I ended up making a bunch of early on YouTube for me. I made a bunch of videos with that amp that were really popular. And I ended up selling it onto, then it was one of those things where I wasn't using it as much. And I wanted to get that Cherrytone Molecular that Nick put together, where that amp was started from a conversation he and I had where I was like, oh, could you make a camera in Atomica? He was like, yeah, I could do it. What if we do this, and this? I was like, yeah, and what if you do this, and this? So if you've got a Molecular, that's kind of where that comes from. But yeah, so I sold that on to partially fund that amp. And again, like, I don't think I sold it for much more than I paid for it. The person who bought it was like stoked. Similar thing, I think a Boogie Triaxis I picked up for
I remember that.
A pretty decent price. Yeah.
Didn't I?
You found that one.
Yeah.
It had like a broken, one of the, the glass panel was sort of cracked and covered over, but it worked fine. Again, made a bunch of videos with it, used it a bunch, and again, sold it to someone who was super stoked and sold it for way under market price, So I feel like, just not that I'm here to just like pat myself on the back like I'm the most ethical.
Yeah, we're just doing good. Yeah, like that's all.
No, not
about,
at all.
mate.
Like always looking for the deals. Tell us about your Splawn, mate.
Well, just before I do that one, I'll mention one more Ben Wilson thing because he sent me a message a couple of years ago. This is 2019 because I like Ibanez guitars and I've got a bit of a thing for them. I don't really collect them so much as I thought I would probably 10 years ago because I've got other interests. But he's like messaging me. He's like, he lives in Bailing Up, which for anyone that is not from Western Australia,
the magic mushroom capital of Australia.
Yeah, it's beautiful down in Bailing Up. But he goes, look, I was at the local IGA and I saw this this ad pinned to the notice board, and someone's selling an Ibanez Axe Star guitar, which belongs in the category of questionable guitar shapes as well. It's very, very strange. But he goes, look, the person's local. They want $165 for this guitar if you're keen. I'm like, mate, lock it in.
Yeah.
Like, let's do it. That's too good to pass up, you know? So he went and got it, brought it back up to Perth. I immediately, it was not in pristine condition. And the funny thing was with that guitar, and Ben's telling me this, he goes like, oh, the guy had bought this like at the time, probably 25 years ago, from one of the local guitar shops. And he just does like Neil Young covers or Bob Dylan covers or something like that. It was the strangest guitar. Like I couldn't think of a worse guitar to pick to play those sort of songs. But he thrashed it a bit and it felt like that. And it's got some like cracks in the finish and possibly some body cracks, who knows. But I gave it to Tim at MT Guitars or Williams Guitars, and Tim refretted it, you know, fixed it up, and it's a really cool sounding guitar. I'm not sure what the pickups are in it actually. It's active, but it sounds really good. I did one Dockers game with it, like really early days, which there's a bit of video of that flying around too, of me playing that guitar. So that was one. But you asked about my Splawn, which so I think it was
a
like
rare amp here.
Yeah, and you know, it's an amp that I have a real love-hate relationship with. And funnily enough, like I've played it. I mean, this is like, again, slight tangents because I love a tangent, but I started getting a bit more into it probably maybe 4 or 5 months ago now. And I dialed it in a way that really did it for me. It's just like, it's got so much bottom end in it. It's a little bit difficult to control, but once you find a spot and once you get it right, it does sound very good. And I've actually got some Tonex profiles of that one sound that I've then used in other projects quite a bit, and something that I'm working on now. And the client loved that sound. It took a lot of trial and error to find a sound that they liked, but that was the one. So anyway, this amp, it actually popped up a couple of times before I ended up buying it. But we spoke about Splawn years and years ago. And I feel like the first time I saw it was even like the first time we went to the States and they were in one of the music shops. Like someone, I'm not sure if they were being carried by that store or someone just traded it in, but you know, it's like, what the fuck is this brand Splawn? And then I remember you sort of, you know, started talking about them a couple of years after that. So it came up locally, and I'm like, I mean, it was like, at the time it was like $1,600, and I thought, oh, that's cool, but I'm not going to drop $1,600 on this amp. It's just, I really didn't have the money at the time. And I kind of left it for a few months, and then it appeared again for $800. And I went, man, I can't really pass that up. That's too cheap. So yeah, I went and got it. The guy sort of said that he had a couple of issues with it. And I can't remember what it was exactly. I remember, I think he said maybe he'd blown a tube. So I thought, well, if it's just a case of buying like a quad set of KT88s, like that's actually not too bad. And yeah, sure enough, I did that. Kind of solved most of the problems.
Yeah.
So yeah, I had to get it serviced. There was a couple of other little things about it that were a bit strange, but man, like that was a hell of a deal, because you can't get one of those amps here for less than probably $4 or $5 now.
Yeah, they're just like not widely available. They don't, like, someone would have had to have imported that directly, right? And paid a lot of money.
I don't think there's many Splawns in Australia. It's not the only Nitro, I'm sure of that, but we're in single digits in terms of how many are around, which is a hard thing, because like whenever I get motivated to just, you know, want to, you know, maybe get something else, the Splawn ends up on the top of my, like, oh, maybe it's time to let this one go, because it's been 10 years. But yeah, there's just none others around. And I've got this real weird sick attachment to it. It's probably like, despite always being first on the chopping block, I don't think I'm ever going to get rid of it. It's always going to sort of stick around. And
funny one. Hey.
Yeah, but we've used a bunch. It's a cool amp, man. And so I got a hell of a deal on that. That was at the start of my like insane journey into collecting amps. And I mean, I say insane, it's not anything compared to some of the other people that I know are on the internet. So insane for Western Australia, perhaps.
Yeah, and again, this is all kind of in the context of living in the most remote city on Earth. So, you know, the definite scarcity relative to some other stuff. Some of these deals might not sound very good to other people, where people are like, oh, I paid $13 for a 50s Les Paul.
Do you know what was interesting around that time as well? Because like, I think that the age that we are now and the age that we were when we started really getting into this stuff, like it was around the mining boom, and there was a lot of people that had disposable income that,
dude,
yeah, they would import stuff like this from over east, overseas, whatever it might be, and then their industry may have collapsed a little bit, and they just had to move stuff on. And like, yeah, I mean that's sad. I'm not going to gloat about that, but yeah, as a result, there was like kind of a small period of time where some more obscure stuff just became available, or like was imported into the state.
Yeah.
And yeah, we were sort of lucky to sort of make the most of that. And again, I'm trying to say that in a not a like gloating way, because I don't mean to be like insensitive when someone's got to sell their prized possessions to pay the bills. That's like, we've all been there too. So, anyway.
Yeah, never lovely. But yeah, that's a really good point, especially for here. And I'd be very curious to hear from people in the comment section if they're watching this on YouTube or they're listening on their podcasting app of choice. Like, tell us what your GOAT deal is, you know what I mean, on music gears. So yeah, well, mate, that feel like we could go on for this a lot longer, but I actually have to run and do some guitar teaching, and hopefully it's more a case of telling people just don't do what I did, like don't buy all this stupid stuff that you're never going to use. So any parting thoughts? Yeah, exactly. Just get an Axe FX, bro.
Yeah. Parting thoughts. No, I don't think so, mate. I'm pretty happy with how this camera stuff looks, though. That's pretty cool.
Oh, mate.
I'm actually ready to start shooting I'm going to start making a couple little videos, I think. So
yeah, you are.
It's one of those things where I've got to just take the first step, film something. If anyone's got some pro audio or recording questions and topics you think you'd like to hear me speak about, then maybe you could drop that down in the comments, and I'll see if I can address some stuff. I got some ideas I want to talk about, but yeah, really just have to force myself into it. So that's my parting thought.
Of that. Yeah, get it done, mate. We know it's going to sound good. We know it's going to look good. I look forward to hitting subscribe on the Troy Naberband channel, and I guess we'll see you all on the next episode of the Gear Podcast. Thanks for tuning in.
Peace out, everyone. Bye.